Today, let's talk about middle school and high school literature curriculum. Hey everyone, we recently switched to doing something really new, kind of scary, and super exciting for our kids for curriculum. So we are switching to basically a very much parent-led, more fun schooling, unschooling kind of techniques to teach our kids. So before I even get started into this, I will preface with, I have 4 kids. I have 2 10th graders, an 8th grader, and a 7th grader. The 7th grader actually skipped 6th grade, so she's gonna be doing AP classes, and then I have 1 high schooler who will be doing AP level classes. The other 2 are not special ed, but they also require more visual hands-on learning. They can't just read something and do it. And there's a lot of people that are. I prefer more visual. Like, I can do the reading and learning, but I prefer visual learning techniques. So I was really excited to find something that kind of fed into both at the same time. Basically what we're doing is changing things up. So for 6th and 7th grade, we're gonna be using Night Zookeeper. Like the one that's skipping 6th grade is technically doing some 6th grade work over the summer, and then for 7th grade, she'll be doing Night Zookeeper. They're one of our sponsors in other videos. The link is always in the description below. I don't really want to get into that as much today because you guys know how much we love Night Zookeeper and how much that works. Today I want to focus more on movies as literature. Yes, I said using movies to teach literature class. So let me turn you around and show you what we are using for 9th grade. We have one that's doing 9th grade over the summer. We have one that'll be in 9th grade fall 2023, and then fall 2024. So let me turn around and show you what we're using for that, and then I'll kind of explain how this works. Here is a book that was recommended by our guidance counselor through our umbrella school. One of the reasons we absolutely love an umbrella school is we have a guidance counselor who helps us with teaching our kids, finding those learning techniques that work for our individual children. And when I told her I wanted to move to more visual learning for 2 of my kids, she instantly got so excited because that's like her specialty, and she highly recommended this book. Let me show all of it. So this is called Movies as Literature. You can buy it on the website. I think literally if you Google movies as literature, it pulls you up on the website. I don't remember what the exact name of the website is, but like here's other books that you can find as well that also are sold by the same company. Movies as Literature. How does this basically work? So let's turn. It's by Catherine Stout and Richard Stout. It's a complete 1-year course for high school English, which is why we are starting this with 9th grade. 7th and 8th grade could do this, but some of the questions are really extensive. So the agreement that we made was that we are starting it in 9th grade, and we're starting it with the one who's actually taking a full literature course over the summer for 9th grade. And it's kind of like our trial and error. And we have been doing this now for 6 weeks. We started our summer like immediately in mid-May with one of ours. The other started in the end of May, early June. We have been in this for 6 weeks, and I am already in love with the way that this teaches literature. Hi, me again. So let me preface real quick. Again, I wanted to preface this. I forgot to preface. I keep saying literature. In English, like if you're in the United States, you know every year you're supposed to take an English class. The foundation to an English or language class, not like language arts or like, yeah, language arts, not foreign language. Let me explain what the foundation to that is. And the guidance counselor who recommended this book said this foundation. The foundation principles of English are literature, grammar, and composition. Those 3 key elements are what make up language and literature. So now we call it literature class. Just across the board, 7th through 12th. Okay, let me get back to the book. So with following that foundation that literature is made up of, or English and language arts is made up of, literature, grammar, and composition for 7th through 12th grade. Now again, with the younger grades, yes, they do have phonics, phonetics, rules. They have to learn nouns, verbs, adjectives. But all of my kids are to the point where they understand what those are and only occasionally need a review on those, not a constant review every single year, which is one of the beautiful things about homeschooling. Once your kids are done learning something, you don't have to review unless they need it. Let me explain how this works. I will go ahead and show you this. So Movies as Literature, they did pick 17 specific movies for this book. I'm not going to show all of them because again, I want you to like look at this book to purchase it. But some of the ones that we have done with Shane, there's also The Quiet Man, The Music Man, E.T., why movies, and it goes into a description of why you use movies to teach literature, how they picked these specific movies. And then look, Will I cover everything necessary for an English class, and explains how that works. So for honors, there's extended activities. Mostly what we are doing for honors, and every single one of these for honors, you're actually reading the book that goes with it, and that way you're doing both. How to adjust the course for special needs, how to use the course for 7th and 8th grade, and where do I find movies for this course. Most of the ones we've been renting from Amazon as a 2-night rental, and it works just fine. We're doing it as a crash course, so we're doing it all in 1 week, but we're not doing... We have, the one that's doing it is not doing it as an honors program for the summer. So we're not doing honors. We're not going to do a summer honors one because our summer semesters are crash courses. They are cramming as much in as possible. So for summers, this is not really, but like for, if you're doing just the visual and you're not doing the honors, then you can definitely do this because we're already working on it. There's notes for the teachers in here as well and how this works. To the student, before you watch the movie, you're going to read one thing about the movie, and then while you watch it, you watch one time completely interrupted. After the movie, you can go back over it, watch it again, take additional notes before answering the questions. And then it tells you how to, like, a sample schedule of how your student can do this in 2 weeks, which is what we will be switching to. So once we switch to our fall semester, we'll be doing this in 2 weeks. Pre-writing, drafting, revising, questions to ask yourself while doing the revising. There's editing, publishing final draft, and it's all the things you need to, like, you know, how to write a proper essay. This is for the teachers. There isn't how to evaluate an essay because some people, if you're new to this, you would have no idea. Like when I first started grading essays, it was the scariest thing ever. This does the points all for you, and I will say that I let my kids type their reports in Google Docs, which already gives them some suggestions for things. And sometimes all I'll do is I'll go in when they share it to me, and we do it all in private. It's only me and my student who sees it. I'll highlight a word and be like, can you give me a better word? And they can highlight it and look it up in the dictionary, but they have to choose one that the dictionary provides that actually fits it. Because, you know, sometimes they'll give you the synonyms for words, and they may not fit that sentence quite right, but it's still a synonym to that word, and then it gives you a letter grading point. All right, so here is the student lesson. Like I said, we did do Shane as the first movie. I will share like this part right here. So like every single time it's going to have like, Shane is a Western, the year the film was released, directed by, starring, and then screenplay or based on the novel by. And that's the important information that I make them do for their reports, is they have to tell me who was the original author of the book. Then it gives a background information about each movie while you watch, and then every single time at the bottom of the page, there's what your student is going to be learning about that curriculum. And then as you go through, there's going to be questions on every single page that they need to answer. You're going to be like, well, how would I know the answer to that? Well, I'm glad you asked. If you switch over to the teacher key portion, in the back, there is a teacher's guide. It has suggested answers for every single question for every single movie. And I found that like when we first started going through this, if you have a reluctant literature language learner, sometimes giving them little prompts from this will actually help them as they go through this book. So in the back of this book, there are 2 things. There is a glossary and there is a final test for your students to take. This is just the springboard. So what you can do from here, and what I'm going to do in the description box below, and if I can link it up here, sometimes the cards will link to a blog site, sometimes they won't because it's, you know, they might, sometimes the automatic YouTube algorithm will spam it and say it's a spam site. If I can link it up here, I'll link it up here. If not, it'll be in the description below. Year-Round Homeschooling by Misty Leask has a free program for movies with your kids and things to prompt them for writing about that movie. So again, I have 2 that are doing honors. So what they're going to be doing is, in Tennessee, we have a free website called Tennessee Reads. You can check out digital books for free with your library card. And if you don't have a local library, because some places it's really hard to get your local library, you can actually get a library card through Tennessee Reads. Check to see if your state has something along those lines that's available for like a free library source for you to check out books. If not, you can buy them on Amazon, or you can rent them or put them on your Kindle. What we are planning on doing is the AP ones will read the book with it, and then the other ones will just do what is on that year-round homeschooling. If you want to help out Misty, one of the things you can do is she has some that are movies based on books, and you can actually purchase those individual ones. So how are we using it for our kids after they complete this book? This book, if you start with it, if you start it as your springboard, gives you an idea of how to have those discussions with your kids about what the movie is based on. And this is based on more of like a Christian perspective of teaching your kids, like, well, how does this Bible verse relate to what this topic was in the movie, and how does it apply to your own personal Christian walk? So like there is those points in there. I like that. For my 10th through 12th graders, well, one's finishing up 9th now, but my 10th through 12th graders for fall of 2022 moving forward have a different schedule than mine that are starting 8th grade this fall and moving forward. So the ones that are starting now, I have one that is in 9th grade right now with movies and literature. This fall, those two will be doing British movies as literature for 10th grade. When they do 11th grade, they will be doing American movie or American literature as movies. And then for 12th grade, they are going to be doing children's literature as movies. Now, my rising 8th grader, my rising 7th grader, starting in 8th grade. So the one starting 8th grade, she'll be doing it this fall. The 7th grader will do one more year of Night Zookeeper and then move up to movies as literature. But the 8th grader is going to do children's literature as movies for 8th grade. Then for 9th grade, she'll go back to the movies as literature book that we have provided. 10th grade, she'll do the same. She's doing British literature as movies. The reason why 10th grade we decided to do that was 10th grade is the year that usually you do world history or world geography. So we figured that's why you should do British literature then. And British literature was the one that was suggested. We've got some really cool ideas coming up for doing that one, and all of them we already have some really cool ideas for like movies and themes and things to go along with those. 11th grade is usually the year that you do US history. So that's why we picked that year to do the American literature as movies. And we're not doing any repeats. If they do one for children's literature, they cannot do it for American literature. We're not going to do any repeats. They have to do different movies each time. I'll probably give you all a list as we go each year, at the beginning of each year as we do it, of what we're going to be using. But I'll go ahead and do a spoiler. For 10th grade, they've already chosen The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. We're going to do them randomly as well. Once they draw out The Hobbit, the next, there's 6 movies, so 12 weeks, 2 weeks per movie. They are only doing Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and we're not going to do any movies in between them, and just keep the trilogies going because it makes it easier. Also, I already have all of those in extended edition. That's going to be a lot of TV time. But it's also like a lot of in-depth time too. And for The Hobbit, we're also adding in some of the other books that give more history, and it's gonna be so super fun. I'm really looking forward to that one. But anyway, so like for that one, so they're gonna, you know, do 2 weeks on that, or 12 weeks on that one altogether. But for the rest of them, for like the single movies that they're gonna be doing, they're just gonna choose a new one each week, and we're gonna have a little bit of prep before of knowing, so that like if we want to buy like something specific or do like a special field trip based on one of those movies, then we can add that into our schedule, you know, the Friday before, because that's usually when I budget everything out. That's why we do British literature for 10th grade, and then American literature for 11th grade. So the ones that are doing children's literature for 8th grade, for 12th grade, they're gonna do Christian literature as movies. That one's a little iffy. I may change that up. We'll see how it goes. There's some that are gonna be really good to do with that, but if we really struggle to get like enough, because what we have found is that you're gonna need 17 movies that are based off of books. So if we really struggle with that, we may do like a part 2 of just like hodgepodge of movies and whatnot. But that's kind of where we're leaning though, is like doing Christian literature as movies. So when I say that, like one of the ones that we thought about was like Love Comes Softly, Ben-Hur, the Paul movie, the 10 Commandments movie that I watched growing up, which I know that one's super long. But some of these other ones, like E.T. was not a short one. So anyways, that's kind of where we're thinking with that. And what we do is with our new daughter, before everything settled out, we had to have like her full course of action for high school planned out with all the movies planned out and all that. So all I did was open up a Google Doc, and I would put like 10th grade, and then I said, okay, here's movies based off of British literature, and we picked ones off of those. But once they said Hobbit, I mean, that filled 6 slots of the 17, so that only left 11 to pick. But you can literally Google British movies based off of literature, and you can find so many resources of movies to pick. There are some that we chose not to do just because of our own personal beliefs, and there's some movies that I don't feel like my kids are ready for yet, so we didn't do those. So like, you know, kind of pick and choose. Don't just go with whatever somebody else says. Make sure you do your research and do what your family is more comfortable with. And I am doing some that my kids have already seen multiple times, but I'm also tying in the literature in with that. And then, like I said, you're on Homeschooling Missy Lee. She has those worksheets on like, what is the climax? Tell me one paragraph about this main character. How does it apply to your Christian life? Things like that. So like each day is going to have something. And then for those, instead, since we're not going to have like a test, a pre-written test based off of every movie they've seen, what we have agreed to do is most of the time, like in most homeschool curriculums at least, you only do like one major book report a year. So once they finish movies as literature, they will do a book report based off of one of the movies. And it has to be a thorough, in-depth book report. They can choose the topic. It can either be comparing the book to the movie. It can be comparing two characters. It can be pros and cons. Just like, you know, there's different essay topics that you can choose. I mean, obviously the easiest one for this kind of thing is book versus movie. I may try to change that up and keep them, you know, from doing the same thing over and over again. But that's kind of how we're going. But anyway, so I wanted to share that with you guys because it's super exciting for me to do something like this, and it's super fun too. I don't want to share everything in the book because it's copyrighted, but there was one movie in there that like we were like Matt wanted to watch with us. Like he really wanted to watch that one with us. So we watched that one. It was one that Matt and I grew up watching as kids. It came out before we were born, but like we watched it. It was one that we both watched on reruns as kids. We got to sit down with him and do literature class with him, and that was super cool. What I'm planning on doing from here on out is once we start this fall, my 8th grader will go the first week and we'll get a movie. And then the other two are going to be doing like journaling based on like, you know, summer, blah, 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 for the first week of school. Then the second week of school, it's going to flip-flop. And then the 10th graders are going to be watching their movie while the 8th grader is doing her paperwork on the movie, like answering questions about the movie and the characters and all of those things. And it's all free printouts. And another thing too that I'm going to mention is I'm only going to print those printouts once. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print them out. They're going to be in a floppy folder for them to read and look at. Like it's going to be like a reading book for them to read. Then they're going to be typing all the reports in docs because it doesn't use as much paper. If I feel like they need to write them down and work on penmanship, then we'll print out more and they can actually handwrite them out and do penmanship. But if I feel like, you know, they just need to do it in docs because it already autocorrects for them and helps them have more of the writing prompts and makes them think. I've noticed more with my kids, instead of like hammering on doing a spelling curriculum every year and just, you know, staying on it, letting them use docs to write their reports and stuff actually prompts them to think more of, okay, this says this is wrong, why, let's fix it, than me having to take time and edit it and highlight it and have them rewrite it again. So I really prefer to teach that way. So that's my personal style. If you want them to write it out, you can print the worksheets every time. If you want them to type it out, you can just use the worksheets as a guideline. Or if you don't even want to use like the whole worksheets the whole time, at least do the download through her, and then maybe like make a cheat sheet of questions that they have to answer every time with the schedule of day 1 you're in, or day 2, because day 1's watching the movie. Day 2, enter this question. Day 3, you know, and then allow them to have time on day 10 and just kind of finish up, wrap up that one before moving on to the next movie the next week. So that's kind of how we're doing it and trying to balance it out. And then when we have 3 kids doing movies, well, we'll figure that out fall of 2023. But for now, that is it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so excited to do this with you guys and share with you our process as we go. And I will give you our list of preferred movies this fall for the children's literature. I'll do a short video on that and then a video on just the British literature's movies, and we'll go from there. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all of our members for supporting our content and allowing us to continue to pay for our channel. Thank you to all of you for supporting me with your positive comments, liking, and subscribing, and we will see you next time.